Hey everybody, welcome into the Live and Learn podcast. It is Tuesday, October the 7th, 2025. Hope you're doing well on this beautiful, beautiful day, 30 degrees in October. If that is the new climate change, if that is global warming, I'm all in. Bring it on. Destroy the planet. Buy your green vehicles. Don't care. I love it's what a couple months of weather, and it's for a person that hates, loathe entirely, to quote the Grinch poorly. Keep bringing it on, because the winter sucks. Every part of it sucks. So just amazing. But I hope you're all doing well today. We have a lot to dive into tonight. It is actually the start of the NHL season. The first period of the first game between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Florida Panthers just concluded. Florida having a 2-1 lead. So we're going to get into the NHL season, talk about some predictions, look at some signings over the last little while, including a big one in Edmonton that shocked me and shocked, really, I think, the sports world in general. We will then get into some baseball, postseason ongoing, Blue Jays, Yankees in about 2 hours' time from Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Blue Jays looking to sweep the Yankees. So we'll get into that, and then we'll also touch on some football later in the program. There was no show on Sunday night. I apologize. I attended a wedding for former co-host, great friend, my brother, Seamus, who got married this weekend to his lovely wife, Kennedy. Thrilled for the both of them. I was honored to have been a part of it. It was a great day. The weather was great. They both looked fantastic. And it was a really great weekend. Being around great people and just seeing them, happy and starting their life, in this new direction. I couldn't be happier for them. So great weekend. I apologize for no show on Sunday, but I was wiped from the wedding. I have to admit, I was really tired. We will be back live this Sunday following the NFL games, 8:30, as we do typically on Sundays. So we will be back on Sunday for that. But tonight, the NHL season has commenced. And I'm at work yesterday, just going about my business, doing my thing, and all of a sudden I get a notification. Connor McDavid is signing an extension with the Edmonton Oilers, courtesy of Ryan Rishaug of TSN. And I'm like, okay, well, 2 days before the start of Edmonton season, they open their season tomorrow night, Battle of Alberta against the Calgary Flames. But I immediately go to, why is he doing this now? Why was this not done 2 months ago? But that quickly changed to, then I see that it's for 2 years, $25 million extension, meaning it's a $12.5 million per season deal, the exact same number that McDavid is currently being paid in Edmonton. So if you add on these next 2 years, he signed a 10-year, $12.5 million a year deal with the Oilers. This will take him into his 30s, and he's committed himself to the Edmonton Oilers for the next 3 seasons. First of all, Edmonton fans have to be thrilled. And you have the 2 best players in the world. And when you have the 2 best players in the world, you have a very good chance of winning a Stanley Cup any season. And I think that's how you have to look at it if you are in Edmonton. You have Draisaitl and McDavid on the same team in their prime, trying to finally win one. They haven't been able to, but you have a better chance than most teams because you have those two guys. Period. End of discussion. Now, for Connor, signing for $12.5 million for another 2 years. Financially, it makes zero sense because he could have made close to $20 million a year if he wanted to. But Connor McDavid clearly cares about winning, cares about his legacy, and said, I don't care about the money. I'll let Kaprizov sign his record deal in Minnesota. I will let my teammate, Leon Draisaitl, make $1.5 million more than me. I'll let Austin Matthews make more than me in Toronto. It doesn't matter. Because he wants to win, and by taking $12.5 million, he gives the flexibility to the team to put better talent around him over the next 3 seasons. They also signed Jake Walman to a 7-year, $49 million extension the same day. Walman, who they basically got for nothing from the Detroit Red Wings, who put him on waivers and they picked him up. And he was on a 50-point pace last year. He's got one of the best shots in the league. They have 2 defensemen on the same team that have 2 of the best shots in the league, in Evan Bouchard and in Jake Walman. Something not many teams can say. So that's good to have. They're without Podkolzin. They still have the same 2 goaltenders. Their team is not as good as it was last year or the year before going into this season. Doesn't mean they won't win a Stanley Cup, but I'm just looking at the team in general. But Stan Bowman's won Stanley Cups, plural. Stan Bowman is a winning general manager, winning president, and clearly McDavid has faith that this Oilers brass can figure it out and put a good product around him. Draisaitl's locked up long-term. Bouchard's locked up. Walman's locked up long-term. RNH, Trent Frederick, for some reason. This team has guys that are going to be there, but then you also have the Matthias Janmarks of the world who are interchangeable and could be gone at any time if it doesn't work. They had to part with Evander Kane at the end of last season. He's now in Vancouver. I don't think that's a big benefit. So this season they go in with some question marks, just like the team that's been to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. But Edmonton is one of the teams that can win a Stanley Cup. They have been class of the Western Conference for the last number of years. We will get to teams that I like, teams that I don't like. I think it's an interesting year because heading into this NHL season, I don't think there's a clear front runner. I don't think there's a super team. There might be one that emerges. Do I have teams that I look at and think that team's going to win their division? Sure. But certain teams have gotten older. Certain teams aren't as good as they used to be. Certain teams have injuries going into the season, which could be a huge, factor. The Oilers, for instance, don't have Zach Hyman for the first month and change of the season. That hurts. They currently don't have Vasily Podkolzin because he's in Russia because his father died a few weeks ago. So all these things come into play. But at the end of the day, when the going gets tough and you have to play a game, you have McDavid and you have Draisaitl on the ice. Now, I don't think they should be on the ice together because I find that stupid and I want them centering opposite lines, and I don't think you're going to win having them on the same line. But you have them on the same team, and you can utilize them in different ways. And there's so much that you can do with that can be successful, that can lead to wins. So Connor McDavid has put pressure on the rest of the league to follow his lead. Owners are thrilled with this. I don't think players and I don't think agents are thrilled with this. Because it's hard to say, my guy's a $15 million player when the best player in the league is making 12.5. Cale Makar's due some money. What's he going to get? What's the number going to be? And if he takes 16, 17, 18, will he be labeled as selfish, like he doesn't want to win? I think that's a bridge too far, and I think that's an argument that doesn't work. I've had this argument for years with people in my life, mainly my father, who will say, well, they should have taken less because they want to win. Well, you also want to make money. I know in my job, we're all looking for employment. My main focus is money. I don't care. I might hate the job, but money is top of mind to me. Because in life, in order to do stuff, anything, in order to buy a Kit Kat bar, you need money. It's not a debatable fact. It's you need it. Cale Makar's won a Stanley Cup. Maybe that changes the equation for him. McDavid hasn't won yet. And he's clearly desperate to win. It's interesting. I don't know why they took till October the 5th or 4th, whatever it was yesterday, 6th, to figure this out when they could have done it this summer. If it was only going to be 2 years for $12.5 million. McDavid's setting the line, he's setting the gears, and the Oilers are just saying, okay. There's no negotiation. There would have been no pushback on salary. They're thrilled with this. Thrilled. Quite honestly, Bouchard's deal looks even worse now because McDavid took 12.5. Because Bouchard is, he can be Goodfellas, an awesome movie, one of the best movies of all time. Might be my favorite, just saying. And then sometimes he's Monster, the Ed Gein story. That's a Netflix plug. Don't watch it. I've watched 2 episodes. It's brutal. Skip it. There's a lot of good content out there right now. A lot of good movies. Do not watch this show. It sucks. Ryan Murphy, side tangent, loves to make these serial killer shows. And most of them stink. Dahmer stunk. This one stinks. But I digress. Stinks, though. But credit to the Oilers. Great signing. Good for McDavid. Good for Canada. And if 3 years from now, and the Oilers have not won a Stanley Cup, and he decides to leave, the Oilers should have no complaints with him. Should never boo him, should buy him a lager if he wants one, if he's ever going back to Edmonton. I wouldn't want to, but if he ever decides to go back, because he's giving his prime, everything he has to the city to try to win a championship. He could have been better last year in the regular season, and he could have been better last year in the playoffs. No doubt about it. I think he will be this year. I think he has a big, big season. We'll talk predictions in a bit. I think he has a big year. I think he's fired up. I think he wants it even more. Because to my original point, the league this season is wide open. There is no elite team. And I find it very hard to say that there's going to be an elite team by the end of the year. It's a bunched up. The NFL is like that this year. There's no great team. College football, there's no great team. Baseball this year, nobody stood above the rest. There's no Golden State in the NBA when they were winning titles with KD and Steph and Clay and Draymond. The NHL will have good teams. There's no super team. There's no elite team that I think will stand above the rest. It's going to be a tight season. A lot of teams are going to be in the playoff race until the bitter end, I believe. And we'll get into that. Other signings for the season starts. I want to chat about this a little bit. Let me find this here. My notes. Okay. Bunch of restricted free agents and youngsters. Luke Hughes, 7 years, $63 million extension with the Devils. That's $9 million per season. Fun fact, 22-year-old Luke Hughes is now the highest paid member of the Hughes family. 3 brothers in the league. Luke, Jack, and Quinn. Quinn is up in 2 years. Can sign an extension as of July 1, 2026. Jack makes 8. Quinn makes 6.85. So Luke, who hasn't even played 150 games in the NHL yet, is the highest paid. It's a gamble on a player by the Devils. This could be a really good contract if you're paying him $9 million a year, if he's getting 50 to 60 points a season, potentially in the Norris conversation. He will never be as good as his brother, and that might sound harsh, but Quinn Hughes is the second best defenseman in the league. Some might argue he's number 1. I still have Makar, but they're yin and yang. Very close. I don't mind the gamble. It's a lot. For a guy to me that's been injury prone, for a guy that I quite frankly thought would be better coming in, and he hasn't been, but the Devils have been a hard team to figure out. Make the playoffs, miss the playoffs. Made the playoffs last year. Limped in because they had so many injuries. Dougie Hamilton was out. Jack Hughes missed time. Goaltenders were hit and miss. I mean, they got to hope for a better season through health, consistency. Sheldon Keefe, second year at the helm. I don't love the gamble. I don't hate the gamble. I'm somewhere right in the middle with Luke Hughes. A guy I thought could be traded, not traded. Mason McTavish signs an 8-year, $42 million extension with the Anaheim Ducks. $7 million per for Mason McTavish. Okay. I like this. I like Mason McTavish. I think he can be a number 2 center on a really good team that competes for cups. He hasn't been that yet, but I mean, he's been on a bad Anaheim team. I think he's actually got a NHL coach now in Joel Quenneville. Anaheim's an interesting team for me this year. I think Anaheim can compete for the playoffs, something they haven't done in quite some time. McTavish is a power forward that has skill, good finish, heavy on the forecheck. Just he's a strong, physical kid that has a lot of just great skill to add to his game. So I like the gamble, personally, for me. They also, Anaheim signed Jackson Lacombe, Quebec kid, 8 years, $72 million. That's $9 million per season. That matches him with Luke Hughes. These contracts were done like a day apart. gets an extra year that Luke did not get. Plays at Anaheim. So again, I think many people haven't seen him. This kid's good. This kid's good. Smart, does a lot well on the ice. Good shot. I don't think they're a perfect team by any means, Anaheim, but I think they do have good young pieces. And their turnaround to being relevant, to being a team that was good for a decade, a team that you can make an argument underachieved having Getzlaf and having Perry and Niedermeyer and a team with Solani. They had great teams. But they were, in an era with Chicago, with Los Angeles, teams that were winning multiple Stanley Cups. Detroit was in the Western Conference for, part of their run. I like what Anaheim's doing. I love Quenneville. I thought he should have gotten a job years ago, but bureaucracy and woke culture kept him out of the league, quite frankly. But he's back. I'm happy for that. And oddly enough, he gets a job in California. Dudunch. No, nothing. Bueller. I like that deal. Injuries, Cole Perfetti's going to miss a few weeks for the Winnipeg Jets. Tough break. Had a great end to last season. Was the hero in the playoffs, Cole Perfetti. Dylan Sandberg's also going to miss 2 months with a broken wrist. So a couple of good players, key pieces for Winnipeg missing time does not help them. They're breaking in Jonathan Taves, bringing in new players into the mix, trying to make everything work. Scott Lawton's going to miss a couple weeks for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I thought he had a good preseason, competed hard, fit in well on the team. Also, coaches, Calgary extended Ryan Huska to a 2-year deal. He was on the last year. Edmonton extended Chris Knobloch on a multi-year extension. Well-deserved after back-to-back Stanley Cup final appearances. Also, McDavid loves him, so it only makes sense to give him a deal. And John Cooper got an extension from Tampa this summer, quietly reported, but he's staying in Tampa for, the next little while. Okay. Predictions with the season now officially underway. Let's start with the Atlantic Division. This was difficult because I think there's 4 or 5 teams in the Atlantic that can be playoff teams. There was 5 teams in the Atlantic that were playoff teams last year. And quite frankly, the Metropolitan Division hasn't gotten that much better. For me, I look at Toronto and they have changes. Mitch Marner is gone. You can't help but notice that. They have 2 goalies that they like in Joe Woll and Anthony Stolarz, but neither guy is a bona fide number 1. Both have health risks, so that kind of scares me a little bit. And it's been a minute since we've seen Austin Matthews, play hockey without Mitch Marner on his wing. Some might view that as a positive. I would say, go get your health checked. But we'll see how that transpires. Saying it's going to be an automatic success, to me, is not giving Mitch enough credit for what he does. Their defense, same 6 from last year. They're 7th with Phil Myers, New Brunswick's own. I like their defense. Easton Cowan not making the team. I don't really particularly like that. I think he should be playing. He's good enough to be playing. Sammy Blais and Nick Robertson playing on a third line over Easton Cowan, to me, is just stupid. Because Nick Robertson, everybody knows what he is. My mother, God love her, she loves little Nicky, one of her favorites. But he's small. He skates decent. You think he'd be a better skater. And he turns the puck over, doesn't defend well, and did I mention he's small? Cowan could barrel him over whenever he wanted to. So I have some question marks with Toronto. Florida, same thing. I look at and go, no Sasha Barkov for the whole year. He's their best player. He's the best defensive center iceman in the league. He's a winner personified. He logs huge minutes, defensive faceoffs. They've decided not to go with Bennett, Reinhart, Lundell. They're going with Bennett, Lundell at the center ice positions to start the season. We'll see. They do have that flexibility because Reinhart can play center. They kept Ekblad, they kept Marchand, they kept their boys, they kept them all somehow. They lose Nate Schmitz, they lose a couple guys on the back end that, help their team for sure. So in the Atlantic, I have Tampa winning the Atlantic this year. And the reason I have Tampa winning the Atlantic is because I know who they are. Their team is very similar to what it was last year. You got Vasilevsky, you've got Kucherov, you have Braden Point. Gensel, they're going to score. They're going to give up chances. But Hedman, still at his age, still plays incredibly well. And, they're not a team that went from winning Stanley Cups to the dumpster. They've made the playoffs every year. They've lost to Florida 2 years in a row. Who doesn't? Everybody loses to Florida. Leafs do. Carolina does every year. Edmonton does. McDavid can't beat them. So, Tampa can't beat them. Okay. Well, join the club. To me, I look at Tampa and I go, I think they're going to be the most consistent of the bunch. Florida, no Barkov, injuries, concerns, could be bad, could be dangerous for the team. Toronto, I have more faith in, but they won the division last year. And, it's tough to win a division 2 years in a row. And I'm not even saying that as a joke. It is. It's very difficult. And Tampa hasn't won in a few years. I still think they're a hungry team that wants success, that want to win another Stanley Cup. Kucherov's still in his prime. Point's still in his prime. Gensel's in his prime. Hedman, he's got an extended prime. Vasilevsky's still in his early 30s. He's still a dog. One of the best goalies. He's going to play 60-plus games this year. You know it. So I have Tampa winning the Atlantic, Toronto finishing in second, Florida coming in third. Is how I have it going. Now, that wasn't easy because I had two teams, that very well could jump any of these teams. And it could happen, but I'm going with the three most stable, the three teams that I think have proven themselves above the rest. To the Metro. The Metro to me was far easier because I think the team at number one in the Metropolitan Division is head and shoulders above the rest. The Carolina Hurricanes are the best team in the Metropolitan Division. They have been for about 4 to 5 years. They have the best coach in the division. And despite the fact that they made it to the conference final last year, I think their team is better. They got Keandre Miller over from their rival, the Rangers. Still a surprising deal for me. It was an offer sheet-esque. So they have him coming over. They have this Nikishkin Russian defenseman who played in the playoffs last year briefly. Will have a rookie campaign. We'll see how he can do. A lot of people like him. Should play big minutes for Carolina. Still got Slavin. Still have Chatfield, he's awesome, Jalen Chatfield. Aho, Svechnikov. They added Nikolai Ehlers, comes over from the Winnipeg Jets, who was probably the biggest free agent available that left anyway because everybody stayed in Florida. Nikolai Ehlers leaves Winnipeg, goes to Carolina. joins an already loaded team. There's some decent teams in the Metro. I think it's a division that could have the most turnover, the most potential chaos. But I'm not worried about Carolina. I think Carolina wins the President's Trophy as the best team in hockey during the regular season. I think Carolina, top in the East, top in the league. Rod the Bod. In the regular season, it doesn't matter who they have in net, really. And while I have no faith in them to win a Stanley Cup with what they do well in the regular season. Slow start last year is why Washington won. I don't think they'll have that this year. They'll have a decent start from jump. Second place in the Metropolitan Division, I got the Washington Capitals. They won this division last year. They nearly won the President's Trophy. Alex Ovechkin got the goal title. He's the greatest goal scorer of all time. Nobody can take that away from him. Connor McMichael had an awesome season. Breakout season, was fantastic. John Carlson, Jacob Chikrin came over from Ottawa. He could have been better. He signed a big extension in the offseason. I still think Washington is a good team. I think it's Alex Ovechkin's last year in the league. He's 40 years old. I think this is it. He hasn't announced that, but I think this is it. What else does he have to accomplish? He would love to win another Stanley Cup. Washington, I think, will be a playoff team again. Still have Strome, Ovi, Tom Wilson playing hard. Will be playing for an Olympic spot the whole year. A really solid tandem, Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren. I like their goalies. So Washington, a playoff team for sure. Wouldn't finish in my top 3 in the Atlantic, but because they're in the Metropolitan, they're number 2. Number 3. This is my surprise team. The team I have making it in the 3 spot, it was a team that didn't make the playoffs last year. A team that really never makes the playoffs. A team that's won 1 playoff round in franchise history. And that's the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus missed the playoffs by 5 points last year. They were in the race until the bitter end, but they came up short. But Dean Evison had that team playing hard. He had that team believing in themselves. And you saw the maturity, the development of several young players. Chinnikov comes to mind. You had Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger. They had guys really show themselves to the world. Adam Fantilli is a player. The dude is a baller. And I think he will only get better for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They got Zach Werenski, one of the best defensemen, one of the best players in the league. That doesn't hurt you. Added Charlie Coyle. Boone Jenner's healthy. Monahan's healthy. Young kid, Isaac Lundstrom. We'll see what he can do. Chinnikov, Marchenko can score. Olivier, tough guy. Denton Matejchuk, 21, made the team. Werenski, Provorov, they re-upped. Merzlikin's contract year, playing for the future, got some motivation. I like Columbus to make the playoffs. And that would be a surprise because I don't have the Rangers making the playoffs and I don't have the New Jersey Devils making the playoffs. The Rangers, to me, are the most overblown story of the offseason. Because I don't know how you get rid of Keandre Miller and you get rid of Chris Kreider, but you keep that decaying ship of laziness, otherwise known as the bread man, and call yourself a better team with better competitiveness and just an overall team environment. They are not a better team to me. Sure, they got a coach in Mike Sullivan who's won cups, and they are hoping to turn around. Peter Laviolette won cups. They missed the playoffs in an awful year last year. Gerard Gallant coached the team. He got been to Stanley Cup Finals. JT Miller being captain, all about it. Love it. I think it's a smart idea. But there's something about that Rangers team where they're putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole, and I don't get it. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. Maybe. And they got a cupcake first game tonight against the Penguins, so that doesn't hurt your chances. But I'm not buying the Rangers for New Jersey. New Jersey's not a bad team. I will say that. But I don't have them making the playoffs because I think there's two teams in the Metro that are better, quite frankly. New Jersey has this, two left feet type of vibe to them, where they constantly have injuries, whether it's Hischier or Jack Hughes or Dawson Mercer or Palat, who's been injured the whole time he's been there. And they've added Connor Brown, Dadonov. I like both those moves. But Seamus Casey, Stefan Nason, both out to start the year. Luke Hughes comes in late. Pesci's banged up. I'm just not in. Because my wildcard teams are Montreal wildcard 1, moving up. Ottawa wildcard 2. So I have 7 of the 8 playoff teams from last year making it again. And I hate that because I like to have more change. But I don't think there'll be that much change. Because Montreal got better. Adding Dobson. Lane Hudson is he's a superstar. I don't throw around that word that often. He is. Nick Suzuki's a really good player. Cole Caulfield's a good player. They got Hudson's a superstar, that kid. That's the next wave. The fact that he wasn't invited to Team USA camp, they didn't have to put him on the team. They got a bunch good. He'd make Team Canada in 5 seconds. But they could have invited him. He's the future. Don't think 2026. Think 2020, whatever, 2030, whatever it is. The next one. Think ahead. He's young. But I look at Montreal and I see Suzuki and I see Caulfield and I see Hudson and I see Montembeault, who's going to be playing on Team Canada. Might be a backup, but still he's going to be on the team. And who the hell knows? Maybe Laine shows up this year. And I think Demidov's going to be a good player. We're going to talk about youngsters here in a bit. Demidov, sure, a lot of pressure, but I think he can play. Their defense, younger, better, faster. Gooley, Dobson, Hudson. Good 1, 2, 3. Still have the Andersons, the Gallaghers, a really good third line, checking line. And I think they're better. I think they've gotten better over the last little while more than Ottawa. To me, Montreal is more of a safe bet to make the playoffs than the Senators. And I don't hate Ottawa's team. I like Ottawa's team. For them to go 6 games with Toronto, positive step. No doubt about it. Positive step that was great for them. But Ullmark, shaky for me. Don't fully believe in that. And I like Kachuk and I like Cousins and certain parts of their team. And I think Ottawa will make the playoffs. Batherson's a good player. But could New Jersey catch an Ottawa? Yeah. potentially. Be in that mix at least towards the back end of the season. Because Detroit, no chance. No chance. Buffalo, unfortunately, no. I'd love for them to be, but they're not. It's too bad. Pittsburgh, no chance. No chance for Pittsburgh. Islanders, no, not for me. Maybe, but I don't think so. Philly will be one of the worst teams in the league. So it dwindles quickly. And I think Ottawa, Montreal, I think we get, Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa all make the playoffs in the East. I do. So I got Tampa, first in the Atlantic, Toronto, Florida, Metro, Carolina, Washington, Columbus, Montreal, Ottawa, 2 wild cards. And I have Carolina winning the President's Trophy. I think they got the third best odds on FanDuel, so decent bet right now. Okay, let's go out west. Pacific Division. We always get Edmonton and LA because they meet in a 2-3 matchup. Well, I don't think we're going to get that this year, but for a different reason. With all the news of Edmonton keeping Wallman, giving Bouchard an extension, keeping Connor McDavid, if you missed the headline yesterday, re-upping their head coach, no uncertainty. Sure, you don't have Hyman, but you're happy going into the season. Lot to look at, lot to like. However, in saying that, I don't think Edmonton's going to win the Pacific Division. Because I think they're going to have some growing pains. They played a lot of hockey. And by winning series on the road like Florida did last year, I do not think it's imperative for the Edmonton Oilers to have home ice advantage throughout the playoffs. Would you want it? Sure. Is it imperative? No. So I don't think they'll kill themselves to get it. They had home ice against Florida. They lost. It's not everything. So I have Edmonton finishing second. Just injuries, goalie concerns. How does the depth mesh? No Janmark, no Hyman, Vander Kane gone. There's some things that Trent Frederick, I worry, is going to be a bad contract, but we'll see. I wish the best for him, but I have my doubts. Vegas, I have finishing first in the Pacific for me. The Vegas Golden Knights, my Vegas Golden Knights, some say, because I am pro Vegas. Love that place. I heard tourism is down, which it'll be back. But Vegas added the best free agent available. Even though it was a sign and trade, they added him to the mix. Vegas already with Jack Eichel and Dorofeyev and Barbashev, Shea Theodore. Through all of that, they added Mitch Marner to the group. And they have a very formidable team. To me, they are the biggest threat to the Oilers in the West. To start the season just on paper, not watching a game yet, they're a better team than the Oilers. Now, they're without Alex Pietrangelo, which is a huge loss, whose career might be over. And he'll miss the entire season, they announced today. So that hurts, obviously. And I'd rather have Alex Pietrangelo for a season than Mitch Marner for a season, because I just think defense are so vital. But they got Jeremy Lauzon from Nashville, who's led the NHL in hits last year and a big physical guy. So their D is still big, still mean, menacing, all those words you want to hear about a defense core. Still have Aiden Hill, who has won a Stanley Cup before. So I like Vegas. Eichel's a pending UFA. I don't think he's going anywhere. He just built a $4.5 million home in Las Vegas. Reportedly loves it there. They'll figure that out. He'll get a raise, maybe make a little bit more than Mitch, to say 13.5. But I don't think Eichel goes anywhere. I think this team, they know that every year it's the same goal. It's win a championship in Vegas. Bruce Cassidy probably knows if this season doesn't go super well, he's going to get fired because every other coach has gotten fired after not having much success. And I think this team is deep. I think they're tough, dependable. They got one of the better rosters in the league. You can go Eichel, Hertl, Bill Karlsson, and Brett Howden down the middle. Then you got Barbashev, Trevor Connolly, who's 19, who made the team Young American. Brandon Saad and Cole Reinhardt, a guy who could break out. Dorofeyev, Kolasar, Marner, Riley Smith, Mark Stone. And then defense, you have Hannafin, Ben Hutton, Korzak, Lauzon, McNabb, Theodore, and Whitecloud. And they have full cap relief of Alex Pietrangelo, so they could use that money and add a really good player this year at the trade deadline. So I like Vegas. Vegas to me. For a while, it was either Edmonton 2 seed or LA 2 seed in the West. I think that's finally going to be broken after 4 years playing against each other. And I think LA misses the playoffs this year. I'm not sold on the Los Angeles Kings. I think their streak ends. I look at the team and there's good stories. Kopitar's last year, and he's a Hall of Famer. And I love Andrei Kopitar. And, they added Corey Perry, but he's banged up to start the year. But I look at LA and I go, they were really flawed last year, but they made it work. I like Byfield, but I think a team around them has gotten better. And I think there's certain teams out west that are really I think the Western Conference is really competitive. Really competitive. And the 3 seed in the Pacific, I have the Vancouver Canucks making the playoffs this year. After a disastrous year under Rick Tocchet that went south from Jump Street, I think they can find their game. Not an easy task with first-year head coach Adam Foote, but he knows that he was on the staff. He knows this team well. They have the second best defenseman in the world. Pettersson's the biggest question mark. Will he come to play this year? Will he have a pulse? Will he care? They added Evander Kane for nothing. 1 year left on his deal. Evander Kane playing at home. He's from the Vancouver area. Thatcher Demko is healthy. He's one of the best goalies in the world. He's just never healthy. And their backup goalie is Kevin Lankinen. Kevin Lankinen is awesome. Philip Hronek, Quinn Hughes. They're not a dynamo team. They got rid of JT Miller. You could say that's a net negative. But they needed to do it. They kept Pettersson. He's younger. I get it. He can be frustrating. But Besser, DeBrusk, you got Hedel, number 2 center that needs to be improved. We'll see. Braden Coots, young player, rookie, cracks the lineup. Atu Ratti, Drew O'Connor, Quinn Hughes, Hronik, Tyler Myers, Marcus Pettersson, Elias Pettersson, another one, and Derek Forbert. Not a dynamo, but I think they're going to have 2 really good goalies. It's virtually impossible to play worse defensively than they did last year. I have Vancouver making the playoffs in the West. 3rd seed in the Pacific. Central, this was tough. The Dallas Stars fired Peter DeBoer after losing in the conference finals last year, basically because he called out Jay Gottinger for playing poorly. What he did wasn't wrong. When I misbehaved, and I was a pretty well-behaved kid for the most part, but if I did something wrong, my parents or my grandparents would tell me. And I think that's called building character. It still happens to this day, because even while at 27, I need to hear it sometimes. So I applaud them for doing it. Now, Jay Gottinger sucked, and he sucks pretty much every time he plays the Oilers, if you look at his stats over the course of his career. And Peter DeBoer just made that perfectly clear, and Ottinger was not happy about it, and apparently the players were not healthy about it. And it was really an example of the inmates running the asylum. And to me, it was a really stupid reason to fire a head coach. And I don't know why they did it. Glenn Gulletson gets a second chance at being a head coach. Good job by him. Coached the Oilers way back when, was assistant in Calgary the last couple of years. Or I have that reversed. Head coach, Calgary, was assistant in Edmonton the last number of years. So he goes over to Dallas. But it was a last-minute hire because it was the tail end. Everybody else had gotten a coach. So you can see how I'm talking. I worry about Dallas because I go, this team is mentally weak. And they're the San Jose of this last 10 years, where they get close but don't win. But they have Rantanen and Rupe Hintz and Jason Robertson and Wyatt Johnson and Maverick Bourque and Sagan's healthy and Duchesne. Radek Faxa is a number 4 center. Eslindell, Heiskanen, Thomas Harley's a stud. Leon Pichel's really good. And Lyubushkin. I still love their team. Can they win a cup? Probably not, because they've proven that they can't. But they got to a conference final, Game 5, and they lost to the Oilers. No shame in that. So all the negative platitudes I just laid on Dallas, and I still wouldn't have fired Peter DeBoer, and I think it was stupid and weak. I have Dallas winning the Central Division. Because product on the ice is consistent and good, and Mikko Rantanen is a stud, and he's starting the season on this team. And the other teams, to me, have more question marks. 2 seed in the Central, I have Winnipeg. Winnipeg won the President's Trophy last year. They nearly lost to St. Louis in the first round, but Cole Perfetti, who will miss the start of the season due to injury, was the hero in regulation and then in double overtime in one of the most fantastic games of last season, wire to wire. You might remember it. Winnipeg adds Jonathan Toews, Captain Sirius, one of my favorite players of all time. I'm stoked for John. They keep a lot of their guys. They still have Hellebuck, who's won back-to-back Vezinas, who was the MVP of the league last year on their team. Keep Eric Comrie, the backup goalie. Nito Niederreiter. They do lose Nick Ehlers, as we talked about. He goes to Carolina. Tried to keep him, but he wanted change of scenery. Good on him. He spent a lot of time in Winnipeg. Kyle Connor entering a contract here. American, always a risk to leave. Hellebuck did stay. We'll see. Still a good team in Winnipeg. Still a really good team. Morrissey's still great. Pionk, Stanley, Luke Shen's still on this team. I think they're really good. Could they finish first? Absolutely. They have the best goalie in the sport, so that gives them a great chance to do so. But I think Dallas I have a slight bit more confidence in. So I'm going to go with Dallas. Winnipeg, number 2. I have Colorado finishing 3rd in the Central Division, just like they did last year. Colorado, I love Nathan McKinnon and I love Cale Makar, but Colorado is perplexing to me. Because if things go right, they could still win a Stanley Cup, but I disagree with pretty much everything Joe Sakic and Chris McFarland have done. They could have re-signed Mikko Rantanen for like $12.5 million, but they didn't. They traded instead to go get players like Brock Nelson, who they kept. Okay, he's 34. And Charlie Coyle, who then they traded about 5 seconds after getting him to Columbus. You didn't want to pay for a superstar level talent. You have Cale Makar on your team. Are you going to give him the money? Or are you going to play hardball with him as well? And you also have Marty Neckash, who's entering a contract year, who reportedly is asking for $11 to $12 million. And Marty Neckash, good player, I like him, is not as good a player as Mikko Rantanen. So you're going to give in and give him almost as much as Rantanen, but get half the player? I don't love that decision, Cotton. We'll see how it plays out for them. Landeskog's healthy, playing his first regular season game tonight for the first time in 3.5 years. That's awesome. They have a good team still. I like it. Brock Nelson, they kept on. Like I said, so look, again, these older players like Tavares and like Brock Nelson, I don't love it. It's a young man's game. But Nichushkin, Neckash, Lehkonen, Ross Colton, Olsen, Gavin Brindley, who they got in the Coyle trade. We'll see. Sounds like he's going to play tonight. Devon Taves, Cale Makar, great. They added Brent Burns, re-up Josh Manson. Still a very good team. Still a team that could win a Stanley Cup with Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood in net. But I have my doubts in Colorado. Fast team, fun team to watch, but I have my doubts. My wildcard teams in the West, I have the St. Louis Blues, who were a playoff team last year, who I think will be better this year. They just got in, and they nearly beat the Jets. Snuggerud, young player coming in from college, playing on top line. Neighbors, Pia Suter, Matthew Joseph. I like their team. Logan Mailloux, who they got in the deal for Zach Bolduc with Montreal. They got a good squad. They can compete with the best of them in a tough Central and a tough Western Conference. And my last wildcard team, like I said, I have LA missing the playoffs. My last wildcard team is the Utah Mammoth. No longer the Utah Hockey Club. Utah is the surprise for me. Logan Cooley's a really good player. Quietly a really good player. As is Clayton Keller, as is JJ Peterka, who they got, you might forget. Lawson Krause, quietly, really good. They added Brandon Tanev to that fourth line with Stenlin. I like that. They added Nate Schmidt. They got a youngster, Dmitry Simashev, who's going to play for them on the back end. And they got Vanacek and Valmelka in net. Solid tandem. They're without Barrett Hayton, Liam O'Brien, and Alex Kerfoot to start the season. Regulars. It was between them and LA. I'm going with Utah. And you might say LA is going to get to play Seattle and get to play. I think San Jose is going to take more points this year. I think Anaheim was close to me. I think Anaheim will be in the mix the entire year. And Utah could very much be Anaheim for me. And Anaheim still got, LA still got a veteran team that could be good, but I look at CC, their back end scares the hell out of me. Edmondson, Dumoulin, CC, Brant Clark, who's young. Doughty's their best D, and Doughty's, in his late 30s. Concerning, even though Doughty's still great. Darcy Kemper, Anton Forsberg. Does Darcy Kemper play well back-to-back years? Don't know. Don't have faith in it. Kuzmenko's on their top line. Kuzmenko's gotten kicked out of 2 teams. I couldn't wait to get rid of him. Can't stand the guy. Dogfight, but Pacific Vegas, Edmonton, Vancouver, Central, Dallas, Winnipeg, Colorado, St. Louis, Utah as the wildcard teams. LA missed the playoffs for the first time in a while. Mentioned President's Trophy. I got the Carolina Hurricanes winning the President's Trophy as the best team in the regular season. I just think they're deep. They're consistent. They play in the worst division in hockey, the Metropolitan. And Rob Brendamore has that team going every night. They play their system. They know what they're doing. It's effective. Give me Carolina. MVP of the league, I got Connor McDavid winning MVP of the league this year. I think he has a massive season. The contract's done. Motivated, wants to win, all these different things. I think he wins the Art Ross and he wins the MVP of the league. He's the best player in the world. I think he wants to show it. And I think he will. Going on FanDuel, I know as of yesterday he was, I would say a massive favorite, but certainly a heavy favorite to win the MVP. Find here. Yeah, McDavid plus 200, McKinnon second plus 430, Kucherov plus 600, Draisaitl plus 950. Then you get into Kaprizov, Austin Matthews plus 1900. I think it's McDavid's year. I think he leads the league in points as well because that's just, he's the assist king. That's what he does, quite frankly. So I'm going with him. We want to talk youngsters. A lot of rookies to start the season. They might not all last the season. We got a lot of young players. Ivan Davidoff in Montreal played at the tail end of last year. Played in the playoffs for Montreal before they're eliminated against Washington. 2024, 5th overall pick, comes over. Kid can play, slick hands, really good with the puck. Will not, lead the back check on Montreal. but is an uber talent. We'll see what he can do. He's number one, plus 180. Plus 1,000, you got Jimmy Snuggerud, who's in St. Louis, college kid, has won 2 gold medals at the World Junior Hockey Championships. Big winger, good shot. I think to look at this list, Demidov, Snuggerud are high in this list, I think, for a couple of reasons. They're good players, don't get me wrong, but also they play on good teams. They were both on playoff teams last year. They're going to be put in better positions to have success. So Snuggerud, I think, is going to get points. He's going to score goals. So we'll see what he can do. Third, you have Michael Misa, who was drafted second overall this past June by the San Jose Sharks. Had 130 points in the CHL last year. Makes the team out of camp. He's a guy I think is going to stick around. Great with the puck. He's going to be a scorer, talented player, no doubt. Z Byam, plus 1,200. Minnesota Wild. Minnesota, team I don't have making the playoffs, but I've raved about that defense in Minnesota. With my guy, Brock Faber, you have Z Byam, who played at the University of Denver. They got all kinds of guys on that team that I think are going to have a good defense for a long time. This kid's good. Ryan Leonard, Boston College, American kid in Washington, again, on a good team. Might play on the same line as Alex Ovechkin. You can get him at plus 1,200. Isaac Howard, now of the Oilers, plus 1,600. Brady Martin. Maybe the most surprising kid to make a team for me just because he was in Nashville and didn't know what to expect. 5th overall just this past year. He's their first line center at practice today. Brady Martin for the Nashville Predators. A team that was awful last year. Good on him. Matthew Schaefer, 1st overall pick, plus 2,200, is 8th on the list, which is surprising. Now, I do think it's tough because we're talking about a lot of these kids that are going to be playing. It's tougher for a defenseman in their first year to be productive, to look good, to have a great season. He's going to be playing in Long Island. They're not particularly good or deep or as good on the back end as they have been in previous years because they don't have Noah Dobson anymore. He's in La Belle Province. But I think the kid will make the Islanders a team you want to watch because he's a talent, because he's the number 1 overall pick, because he's the future of the league. So I'm in on him. I don't think it's a crazy bet to say let's go with Matthew Schaefer. Also on the list, you got Matthew Savoy, who will be playing in Edmonton. Zane Pekaresh, plus 4,000, Calgary Flames defenseman. On their top power play unit, just saying. Bennett Seneca, who didn't make the World Junior team, but should have. 3rd overall pick by the Anaheim Ducks 2 years ago. He's made their team out of camp. So there's a lot of rookies currently playing. How long they go through the year remains to be seen. But I think these kids are going to get an extended look. Of course, you got the Detroit Red Wings, who will not be playing Axel Sandin-Pellikka, who's a 20-year-old defenseman who they took 17th overall in 23 because they got to send these kids to the minors. But maybe they'll call him up. They should call him up because there's no reason to watch Detroit. But now I'm seeing he might have made the team even though it was at first announced he was going to Grand Rapids. But actually Sandin-Pellikka can play. And it looks like he's going to be playing good for good. That's about time they did something intelligent in Detroit because it's very few and far between there. Stanley Cup final. This will change. My prediction will change after the trade deadline. But if I'm going off of today, I'm going with Vegas in the West. And despite the injuries and despite the skies falling, this is the time to pick the bones. This team can never win now. I got Florida going back. Because maybe they add somebody. Could be Geno Malkin. Could be Sidney Crosby. Maybe Barkov comes back. Also, what makes Tampa and Toronto better than Florida? I don't think they are. Tampa lost Barkov. Toronto lost Marner. Pretty big losses, both sides. Neither team has filled the hole yet because Nick Waugh doesn't count. Tampa's lost to Florida last number of years. Sasha Barkov had 1 point in 5 games in the series against them this past year. Those other players clearly did something in that series. Still have Bobrovsky, still have Kachuk will be healthy, still have Marchand, Ekblad. I got Florida. Winning the Cup for the 3rd straight year. 4th straight Stanley Cup final for me. Again, could change. Maybe they have a disaster year and they miss the playoffs entirely. I don't see it happening. I see some people saying it could be a brutal year for them. I'm just not in on that. Because I have faith in they have a good team. It's not one player. It's not Paul Maurice. It's a team. But we'll see what happens. It's always fun. Season has started. With a 3-pack of games tonight, 3rd period coming up, Florida and Chicago. Then you have Rangers, Penguins, LA hosting Colorado. And I had some friends text me saying this is a weird opening slate. It is. But I mean, here's the deal. Are they sexy games? No. But here's my opinion. They're sexy games because we haven't seen hockey since June. Early in the season is when every hockey fan should watch as many teams as they can. Because as you go deeper into the season, you give less and less of a shit about teams that aren't any good. And you'll focus on your one team. More power to you. If you're a Leaf fan, watch the hell out of the Leafs. If you love Montreal, watch them. Both teams will be good this year. Both teams will be playoff teams. So, bully for you guys. But watch Buffalo in October. Watch Utah. Watch Anaheim. Watch the Islanders. You want to see Matthew Schaefer play hockey? I do, personally. Chicago, I want to see if Connor Bedard can turn his game around. Frank Nazar just signed a 7-year extension. He's a good player in Chicago. Good player. I like him. Chicago still hasn't built a really good roster, but they got some, Ethan Del Mastro. They got some young defensemen that can play. How do they do early in the season? How does Spencer Knight fit in? How does he adjust to being a number 1 goalie in the NHL for the first time in his career? So far, so good tonight. But those are all headlines that could be interesting, that you could jump on. So while the games tonight aren't great, it's a reason to watch them because in February when Pittsburgh sucks, you'll really won't want to watch them. Tonight, you give them a chance. Also tonight, you got Blue Jays, Yankees in the Bronx, Game 3. Shane Bieber, former Cy Young Award winner, facing off against Carlos Rodon. The Blue Jays scored 20 consecutive runs before the Yankees scored 1 run in their first 2 games over the weekend. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit 2 home runs, including a grand slam. Alejandro Kirk hit a pair of home runs. Varsho, weekend at Ernie's, otherwise known as Ernie Clement. Trey Savage, who was a savage in his performance. 5 1/3, 11 strikeouts, 78 pitches, 22 years old, balls of steel. It is a literal must-win game tonight for the New York Yankees. Aaron Boone's career could depend on it, although that's unlikely because they never fire anybody in New York. Cashman or Boone just seem to stick around. I think the Blue Jays are getting to the World Series in the American League because I think they're the best team in the American League. And the Tigers or the Mariners will provide a challenge. How big of a challenge remains to be seen. Their Game 3 just started after a lengthy rain delay. I think the Blue Jays are going to wrap it up tonight. I think they're going to sweep the Yankees in New York and get an extended break. Because I think the Tigers and the Mariners will split their next two games today and tomorrow, and they'll play a Game 5 back in Seattle on Friday, meaning the ALCS will begin in Toronto likely on Sunday. I don't think the Yankees are going to win a game because the Blue Jays have owned them all season long. And Rodon can be had, and how comfortable the Blue Jays bats have been at home on the road. They love playing at Yankee Stadium. They can get to him. Bieber's had his shaky moments. The bullpen's had their shaky moments. But I believe they're feeling such a way that they will be over to overcome it and win tonight. Seattle, Detroit. I think Seattle wins tonight. Detroit wins tomorrow. We go back Friday for a Game 5 winner-take-all to play the Jays. It could go horrible. Maybe it goes back to Toronto and the Yankees win both in the Bronx. I don't think that's going to happen. Because I don't think the Yankees are as good as the Blue Jays. I don't think they have the weapons to compete. Stanton hasn't been good in these playoffs. Jazz has had a game. Judge has been okay. The power hasn't been there. Aaron Boone seems panicked, needs to make lineup changes, doesn't know what he's doing half the time. Ben Rice has gone cold. Bellinger's getting walks, but nothing else. So I got the Blue Jays winning tonight. Closer game. Say 6-3 Toronto in the Bronx. Bieber goes 5 innings, couple earned. Rodon goes 4 1/3, gives up 5 earned. And the Blue Jays party in New York and they get a break and await their next opponent. When it comes to the National League, Brewers are up 2-0, Dodgers are up 2-0. Dodgers won both games at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. Dodgers jumped out to a big lead, and their bullpen hung on for dear life last night, winning 4-3. Phillies, Castellanos, Harper, Schwarber have given them nothing. Could they wake up? Yes. I think the Phillies are the second best team in the National League behind only the Dodgers. And you knew the Dodgers would be dangerous because they won the World Series last year and the most deep team in baseball. They played 4 postseason games so far, and they've won all 4. Now they need to win. The Phillies need to win 2 games in Los Angeles just to bring it back for a Game 5. Aaron Nola against Yamamoto tomorrow. Yamamoto went 6 2/3, giving up 0 earned in the wild card round, so he was dialed. It would be crushing for the Phillies to get swept by the Dodgers after the season they've had. And there might be changes, and the Phillies have been so close to winning and have had great seasons. And I could see them getting 1. I don't think they win both in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is too good. When healthy, they're the best team in baseball. Very well could happen again. And then you got Brewers, Cubs. Brewers hit 3 home runs last night, 2 3-run shots. Take it 7-3. Now have a 2-0 series lead. Series going back to Wrigley, where Jameson Taillon will look to extend it against Quinn Priester, who grew up a Cubs fan, sat in the bleachers watching the Cubs win the World Series in 2016. Now he can eliminate them in that same stadium tomorrow afternoon, I should say, 4 o'clock first pitch in Chi-Town. Cubs, at least this one could go deeper for me. And I've underestimated the Brewers all year long. I thought the Cubs would win last night, and they didn't. I think this series can go longer. But the Brewers find a way with that lineup. And again, if the Brewers win this series, they have home field against the Dodgers in the CS. But I think the Cubs win at least one. They're at home. The Cubs win tomorrow. Extend it. I think likely the Dodgers finish it tomorrow and advance, just like I think the Blue Jays will tonight. We'll talk more football later in the week. We had a big night tonight with hockey starting and getting into some baseball. So hope you enjoyed the season preview. We'll talk some football later in the week, looking at betting lines for week 6, injuries, and things of that nature as the week progresses. Thank you for hanging out tonight. I appreciate the support as always. Please give us a like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a rating and review, and leave us a note in the comments what you want to hear on the podcast. If we're not covering it right now, I'll be happy to oblige. So until next time, take care. I'm your host, Noah Warren, and this is the Live and Learn podcast.